I want to talk a little bit about the new pick of having Kamala Harris be the vice president with Biden. I think it's good, number one, that we have options, a little bit more options than maybe we had earlier, when we only knew that Biden was running against Trump and we really didn't know who he was going to choose as his vice president. But I have to point out something. There seems to be a pattern. And the pattern that I'm seeing is that every time a so-called black or African American person is chosen, they happen to be someone that they don't have the background of a parent who is also African American and has experienced what their grandparents and those grandparents experienced, which is picking cotton. And I mean just that, picking cotton right here on this soil here in the United States. They don't have the experience of Jim Crow, black people coming up from the South, migrating to the North for better jobs. They don't have the experience of understanding what a noose looks like and what it really symbolizes for African American people. They don't have the experience of racism the way that African American people have experienced it. So what I'm seeing now is a pattern. Before, when Obama was chosen, I didn't even think about it. It didn't cross my mind. I was very excited for the Obamas, and I still like the Obamas. But now, after choosing another person who is supposedly representing African Americans, and this particular person, once again, has no parents that are African American, that their great-great-grand relatives experienced the North Atlantic slave trade in terms of being enslaved on this soil in the United States. Let me say something. The African American experience is a very unique experience, and it should not be taken lightly. I consider the pattern that I'm seeing to be a slap in the face to African American people as a whole. I'm not saying not to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What I'm saying is that this pattern has got to stop. African American people have to be respected. We have gone through many struggles in this country, and so have our great grandparents, and we continue to go through struggles. But all African Americans can tell you about what their grandparent told them, either about migrating from the South and why they migrated to the North, or they can tell you about Jim Crow experience, or they can tell you about picking cotton, or they can tell you about many different experiences that they had in the South and in the North in terms of racism and apartheid of this country and slavery. And one of the things that I'm seeing, a pattern now, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't really think about it. It didn't cross my mind when Obama was elected to office. I think they served 2 terms, and it was great to see, especially Michelle Obama. It was wonderful to see. I was very pleased. But now, when I look at Kamala, I'm saying, wait a minute, there's a pattern here. And the pattern is they're not choosing African American people or people of color that represent the struggles or even have a direct tie or lineage to the struggles of the African American community. And that, in my opinion, is a slap in the face. I'm not saying don't vote at all for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ticket or Donald Trump. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there seems to be a pattern, and that pattern needs to be brought to the attention of those Americans that seem to want to pick and choose who they feel best suited to represent the African American community. Just because you look African American doesn't mean you have the actual African American experience. I have an issue with the fact that there are many African Americans in this country that are in politics, that are well qualified, and they're not being chosen to be the president of the United States at this point, or either the vice president. And I think that our community, maybe not in this election, but going forward, we need to make our voices be heard, that we are a community that has a very unique experience, and that experience is not to be brushed under the rug, nor are we looking for someone to identify with that experience. We're actually looking for the real McCoy, and that real McCoy would be choosing the next time around an African American person for a vice president role or for the president of the United States, with both parents coming from the African American experience, because that experience is very unique. The blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors who are African Americans spilled in this land, in this country, and they built it. And the experience that they have been passed on to generations, to throughout generations within the Black American community, where our grandparents told us what they experienced. No one can just say, I identify. That's not enough. So going forward, after this election period, we need to put our focus on making sure that not only are we not overlooked, but that we are one of the candidates that are being chosen, whether it be an African American female or an African American male, that comes from the true African American experiences in this country, because it is a unique experience.